Test.
That's good.
Yes. Well, good evening. This is Greg Parrish, President of the Forney ISD Board of Trustees, and I hereby call this Forney ISD Board of Trustees meeting to order. It's now 6:01 p.m. And I certify a quorum is present, that the meeting has been posted in the time and manner required by law. The monthly meetings are open to the public. All these meetings are public. Comments and questions from the audience will be confined to the designated time for citizens to address the board. At this time, we'll take item number 15 out of order, and the board will convene into closed session. It is now 6:02, and we will convene back into closed session and be back out here at 7 p.m. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Greg Ferris, President of the Forney ISD Board of Trustees. We'll move on to item number 2. A roll call and quorum is present. Thank you for joining us this evening. Now we'll reconvene back into our regular session. Moving on to item number 3 is we're pleased to have for our welcome and invocation tonight, Mr. Kevin Bowie. Kevin Bowie is the next-gen pastor of First Baptist Church of Forney. Kevin is responsible for preschool, children's, middle school, and high school ministries. He and his wife Charmy are married, have been married since '91 and have 5 children. First Baptist Church is very active in the community and schools. First Baptist has continued to serve Ray and Smith as their adopted campuses. Through their service, they continually uplift students and staff. One of the favorite visits to staff comes when the delivery of each staff member receives their favorite Sonic drink and a dose of encouragement. We are thankful for First Baptist of Forney as a member of our Forney family. Please rise as we have our invocation.
Let's pray. Father, we come before you this evening with humble hearts. Lord, we thank you for your blessings, even in strange and crazy times. Lord, for the opportunities to gather and celebrate things like growing communities, students of the month. So Lord, we do thank you for your blessings. Lord, we ask a special blessing tonight on the Morgan family. I know we've had some very tragic news hit very close to home. And so Father, I ask that you would be with their family. Lord, that you would provide people around them to lift them up, shoulders to lean on, to support. Lord, that the community would rally around them and help in any way that we can, that we would be the hands and feet of Jesus during this time. Lord, I thank you for this board, for our trustees, for our administration, for our teachers. Lord, we thank you for their wisdom. Thank you for their guidance, their giftedness. And Lord, I just pray that you would continue to guide them as they lead us forward. Lord, that you would have your hand upon them, that you would give them wisdom and discernment, and that you would be glorified in all that we do. To your Son, Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Kevin. We'll move on to item 3B, which is our pledges tonight. And Mrs. Rachel Bonner, principal, will be coming to introduce our students of the month. They will lead us in our pledges. And then after our pledges, we will have a little photo time with the families of them. So, Ms. Bonner.
Good evening, Dr. Terry and board. Thank you for allowing Criswell to bring 2 students of the month. We are one building, but we do house 2 different types of programs, and I'm glad for the opportunity to highlight a student from each of our programs. Madison Patton is representing the monolingual side of 4th grade at Criswell. She is the daughter of Sean Coria and Julia Patton and has a younger and older brother. She has attended Criswell since kindergarten and is currently on student council. Madison enjoys dancing and drawing. She currently attends Rhythm House Dance after school and takes a variety of dance classes. Her favorite subject in school is math, and when she grows up, she would like to be a teacher. Her teachers say she's a blessing to have in class. She loves to learn and is always willing to help other students at any time. Madison is an extremely hard worker, and she has helped tremendously in her student council duties. Madison always has a positive attitude and a smile that is contagious. Rylan Gray is representing the dual side of 4th grade at Criswell. Rylan is the son of Michael and Loretta Gray. He has a younger sister that also attends Criswell. Rylan has been in the dual language program since kindergarten. Rylan enjoys humming, drawing, and playing video games. His favorite subject is math. He is thinking about going to college to become a doctor. His teachers say Rylan is a bright young man who adds a touch of creativity to everything he does. He works well with others and is patient with all. Thank you for allowing us to highlight both of these
Let's rise for the pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Juro lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y de la república que representa, una nación bajo Dios indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Honra a la bandera de Texas. Te juro lealtad, Texas, un estado bajo Dios, uno e indivisible.
Thank you, families and students, for joining us tonight. We're moving on to item number 4, is acceptance of our donation. Mrs. Kate Howleader from the Forney Education Foundation will make a presentation at this time.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Terry. Thank you so much for having me here today, and Kevin and all of our fellow guests. My name is Kate Carlever, and I'm the Executive Director of the Forney Education Foundation. I'm delighted this evening to provide the board as well as our guests here with an annual update, as well as an acceptance of a donation for this year's grants. Last year, we very excitedly celebrated 15 years of existence. Just 15 years ago, 6 gentlemen, one not pitcher, Mr. Gary Bean, came together and had a vision for the graduates of Forney ISD. This vision has transitioned over the years to cover many facets of our education foundation as well as our district. But the vision that these guys came together was to help every student expand their future. And so to see that come together and also expand to teachers and then dual credit students over the last 15 years has been an enormous blessing to this district as well as this community. Since 2003, when they first started the conversation of having the foundation, we've awarded over $2 million in graduate scholarships. In 2017, we transitioned from a graduate scholarship to a dual credit scholarship when our wonderful board at Forney ISD made the partnership with Dallas County Community College at the time. We were able to lower tuition, as you guys know, from $300 to $180 for our students, making it much more affordable for students in Forney ISD to take dual credit classes. The foundation came in and thought that we would go a step further in cutting that tuition in half, and those parents then only paid $90 for their students to take dual credit classes. In 1 year, the partnership with the Education Foundation, our wonderful Forney ISD, as well as Dallas County Community College, we dropped the dual credit tuition rate from $300 to $90 per class, which allowed many doors to open for many different students in Forney ISD that before dual credit may have been out of their budget. So since that time, we've awarded $95,000 in dual credit scholarships, and we are very blessed that this year, with the partnership of the Forney ISD and the Dallas College, as it's called now, our tuition is covered 100%. So that has freed up future money for the Education Foundation to help other students and teachers. So we are very blessed to have you partner with the Dallas County to provide more funds for more avenues for the foundation. And then since 2008, we've given away over $795,000 innovative teaching grants, and that's what we're here to present to our board tonight. This was a process that was started, one of the brainchilds of Larry Coker, in our communications department. He thought that with the teachers giving generously as they do to the foundation every year, the foundation should give back. And so we created the innovative teaching grants. They write grants, we produce those grants. So we're very excited to be here tonight to offer a donation for acceptance for our board. In the 1920 school year, we had our greatest year in foundation history. We gave 158 students $52,000 in scholarships. We awarded 103 CTE and AP students $10,300 in scholarships. We awarded 14 Teachers of the Year, one in every campus, $4,000 for their classroom. We awarded $123,000 in innovative teaching grants and direct district support. We also title sponsored the College and Career Fair as well as SEAMFest. So in a culmination of 2019-20 year, we gave the district as well as students and teachers $194,800. This year we were very, very blessed to again have another great year with our Adopt a Grant cycle. This was something that we proposed last year. We give our grants to the community prior to giving them to our board to review and then accept. We had another wonderful year, and so tonight we are presenting on behalf of the foundation $67,998.35 to be accepted as a gift in innovative teaching grants for Forney ISD. I would like to introduce a couple board members that we have in the room. If they would come up so that they can be pictured. Ms. Judith Willis, she's our Brown Middle School principal. Mr. George Brown, he is the founder, one of the founders of the Forney Education Foundation. Ms. Billy Casper, she serves as our secretary. And then Mr. Greg Ferris, our school board president, is also a board member. Thank you guys so much for all you do and continually support the foundation. And thank you, board and Dr. Terry, for partnering with us to gear for the education of students in Forney ISD.
Thank you, Ms. Carlieber. Board, if you've seen the presentation, you've seen the photo, now we need to make a motion to accept the donation from the foundation. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I make a motion to accept the donation as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Green. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much. They do great things for our district and our students in our classrooms. We appreciate all their efforts to raise money. So thank you very much. Moving on into item number 5, student recognition. At this time, Ms. Kristen Zassel will have some special recognitions, starting with number 1, the Forney Family Award.
Yes, good evening. We are so excited tonight to recognize Amy Paz with the Forney Family Award for her prompt and helpful response to one of our bus drivers in need. I've been told she actually doesn't know why she was asked to be at the board meeting tonight. While completing a route, our bus driver hit his head on the camera and fell to the ground. After getting to his feet, he was feeling woozy and went back to the front of the bus to sit. During this time, Amy could sense something was wrong and did not take her eyes off the driver. She watched him the entire time, and when he motioned for help, she immediately came to his aid by using the intercom system and calling for help, telling the responder what happened and where they were located. In the words of our Director of Transportation, Amy was a real trooper. We are so thankful that you thought to get up and help our driver that day, so we wanted to present you with our Forney Family Award. our 2020 Christmas card contest winners. So I have a little video to share our winners with you. So for our pre-K through fourth grade winner from Johnson Elementary, Haley Chastain. Tonight, each of you is going to receive a framed copy of your card and then a set of 10 for you to take home for your family. Our fifth through eighth grade winner from Warren Middle School is Eva Ochoa. Did I pronounce that right? Maybe not be with us tonight, okay. And our 9th through 12th grade winner from North Forney High School is Gabby Ortiz. And our overall winner from Warren Middle School is Jane Salgado. She's not gonna be here tonight? Guess not. Okay, just two tonight.
This time we'll move on to item number 6, and it's a recess, so thank you for being with us tonight. We'll take a 5-minute recess. We'll reconvene now, starting off with item number 7. Item number 7 are our reports. The next 3 items are reports only, require no action by the board. We'll move on with 7A is our monthly financial report. Mr. John Chase, Chief Financial Officer, will present at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. The activity for the month of October, beginning with the general fund, was 10.6 million in revenue collected and 10.1 million in expenditures. Now, year-to-date revenue recognized was 24.7 million, or 22% of the amount estimated. And expenditures was 38.1 million, or 33% of the amount appropriated. And these percentages are roughly equal at the same point in time in previous year comparisons. Last month, I think I mentioned this, but I'm going to start presenting the food service report to you on a monthly basis, particularly since we're not serving nearly the amount of meals that we have been in previous years because of the coronavirus pandemic. Just want to keep the board up to date on where we're at, because it's very likely that we'll have to supplement the food service budget with general funds at the end of the year. Just to start off with, the revenue that we collected for the month of October was $268,000. Expenditures for the month was $329,000. Year-to-date revenue recognized was $503,000, or 10% of the amount estimated, and expenditures was just shy of $1 million, or 20% of the amount appropriated. So in previous years, we were somewhere around the 27% mark in the revenue recognized, and about 29% in expenditures. So we're certainly kind of a little behind this year for obvious reasons. The actual cash deficit that we have right now is not quite $500,000 that you would think, because of the total revenues being $500,000, the expenditures being $1 million, particularly because in the expenditure number we have accrued wages that we haven't paid out yet, but we will pay that out. It's in the months of June, July, and August when we hold back that salary, so we pay on a 12-month basis. But it's very likely, again, as I reported last month, that we could be as much as $900,000 probably in the hole in the food service fund at the end of the year. So just want to keep you up to date on that. Moving on to the debt service fund, we had $122,000 in revenue for the month, $500 in expenditures. We had $19.3 million of revenue and other resources year to date, and that's 42% of the amount estimated, and $37.5 million in expenditures, or 85% of the amount appropriated. And again, the background memo, as I said, when I made comparisons to previous years, I had to strip out the other resources and uses, because that was related to our debt refinance that we did back in September. So when you pull that out in the comparisons as far as percentages, we're pretty much where we would expect to be in the debt service fund this time of year. And so finally, in the cash and investments at the end of October, in the general fund, food service, debt service, and capital project combined, the cash on hand was $95.2 million. That concludes the finance report. If you have any questions, we have to answer them.
Here now, thank you, Mr. Chase. Moving on into 7B, master planning update, Ms. Kim Morzak, and maybe her guest speakers.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Actually, yes, Jeff Fisher from Gallagher Construction is going to go first. We have our update on all of our current projects that he will share with you. Jeff?
Thank you, Ms. Morsack, Mr. President, Dr. Terry, members of the board. Good to be with you again. Quick update on the status of the ongoing construction projects, roads intermediate, Jackson Middle School. Everything's coming along very swimmingly out there. Not swimmingly because we had a lot of rain, which is a good thing, right? The rain's been holding off, and that's been helping us, but we're moving along real well. We've got the, kind of different stages on different areas of the project, but exterior sheeting is going up in some areas, interior framing in some areas, roofing is ongoing. Tornado shelter is been erected, and the roof slab's been poured on it. They're working on the interior floor slab on that now. Structural steel's going up. Second floor slabs are being put in different areas, and CMU walls are being erected in the fine arts and gymnasium areas. There's a few pictures of the storm shelter up on the upper left-hand side. The end of the building there, you can see the yellow one, that's the sheeting. You can see some interior framing there on the right. Structural steel erection on the lower left, and then the structural steel on the crawl space in the first floor there on the lower right. Griffin Elementary School is also coming along very well. They're working on the insulating concrete form walls. They go on the exterior of the building, working on the roof deck, put in the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing items that go inside the building, and the metal framing on the inside. That's in basically all the areas. The storm shelter at that project is also basically complete. The storm shelter walls are done, and I think actually they're planning on pouring that concrete roof this week. So that'll be getting closed up as well. There's a few pictures of that. You can see the interiors up on the top two pictures, and then the one corner of the storm shelter there on the bottom left, and the ICF walls going up on the rest of the project on the lower right. North Forney Animal Science Center basically is complete for all intents and purposes. We're working on some last few little items on the end, and plan on walking a punch list on that this week. Should be able, I think, moving animals in this week sometime, right? Today, right. So animals in the ag part of the building, and then the Paul's building is, we'll be doing the punch list on that here in the next few days and getting that turned over as well. Project turned out real nice. You can see the dog run up on the upper left corner. The middle top is the Paul's workroom, if you will. It's where you can see a bathing tub back there, and then that's where the kennels will be. The upper right is the classroom portion of that building. Lower left is just kind of exterior dirt. Not sure if that's, there's an air conditioner there too, so, you know, on a small project, it's hard to find things to take pictures of, right? The lower right, you can see some of the pins there that have been put in, and again, putting animals in the building, so that project moved along very well. The welding shop over at Forney High School basically is, again, pretty much complete for all intents and purposes. I think we'll plan on doing a punch list on that here in the next week or so. Get that punch list completed and get that turned over to the district. I think to start using right after Christmas break. That's what we're shooting for.
We punch the ag barn tomorrow, and we punch Paws and the welding shop on Thursday.
So there's the upper left, you can kind of see the open area of the shop, also in the center on the top. You can see the welding booths on the left-hand side of the left picture and the right-hand side of the middle picture. See the kind of the back storage work area on the upper right, the exterior there on the lower left, and basically the front, if you want to call it the front of the building. On the lower right, you can kind of see the little storefront glass there. That'll be the retail area, if you will, for that building, for the students to sell metalwork items and things like that if they want to. Yes, we just have the financials. Again, everything on the financial side is cash flows going about as we expect, so we don't have any major surprises there on any of the four.
If you haven't driven by Jackson Roads or Griffin, they're flying, and it's different every day. So it's really neat to kind of watch those go up. But as Jeff said, we're going to punch the welding shop, the barn, and Paws this week. Animals did move in today, so we're right on track, and everything went really well. So for this next item, I'm going to ask Gary Rademacher from Huckabee Architects to come up. Later in the board presentation, there'll be an item that John will present on a parameter cell. And so Gary's going to go over all the projects that the board has already approved that we'll talk about later today. So, Mr. Rademacher?
Mr. Ferris, I just have one question for Kim before Gary gets started.
Yes.
You mentioned putting animals in the ag barn. What about the welding shop? When are we going to allow kids access? Will they get in that this year?
Yes, sir. It will be ready second semester.
Second semester? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We still are waiting on some welders, some of the equipment, but it'll be complete by Christmas break.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Same with Paws. soon as possible.
You drive. Good evening, Board. Dr. Terry, thank you for having us. I get the fun stuff here. Jeff's got the construction stuff, which he considers fun.
That's fun.
I'm gonna show you some really neat renderings. You saw some of this with the middle school intermediate. So let's go ahead and, I'm gonna show you Johnson Elementary School. Again, this is a prototype of Griffin, which is under construction. So Johnson and Willett really will kind of share those with you. Some differences between the two, but really floor plan, curriculum, instruction, the same. So those prototypes, gave you a lot of advantage in that way. So really kind of take you through here, the main entrance. As you approach this, again, a grand entrance here, through the control vestibule, into the main learning hub here on the right, compared to similar furniture that you saw at Griffin, different colors, different materials, again, same layout as you saw at Griffin. Cafeteria, mobile furniture, everything mobile, again, really nice selections here. Stairway leading up to the second floor, academic wing. Collaborative breakout spaces throughout the academic wing. There's patio, you saw that at Griffin, very much the same here. Next year, we tried to break that up, give us more of a townhouse, kind of row house kind of feel with stone, brick, metal panel awnings, etc. Really handsome look there. And as we go to Willett Elementary School again, materials changed colors. The kind of the rhythm of the building changed a little bit in terms of, I'm sure what that is. Kim did that today. Different, kind of the way that the brick lays out and the accent bands. But again, very much the same in terms of floor plan layout, construction. Breakout collaborative spaces are really nice to see. They just kind of pop up in different places. It's really a cool layout. We've gotten quite a bit of input and great direction from staff, and so that's been a huge help. The prototype that we selected for you guys, this has changed quite a bit from the prototype, and I think it's been enhanced quite a bit. So. In case you didn't touch on this, all LED lighting throughout the building, high impact materials, low E glass, very efficient building, rooftop units, etc. And then these are some early renderings here. We've got some modeling yet to do on some of the specific features, but just wanted to show you our first blush at Forney High School. Baseball fields, the covers, the dugouts, artificial turf, etc. Really a nice addition there. And then the softball fields. Again, covering bleachers for 1,000 seats. new dugouts, lights, et cetera, so. And then, as you know, we're really getting close to releasing documents for North Forney High School field house additions. This is a shot, if you're familiar, on the right is your current existing indoor facility. We're gonna look at an alternate to skin that with brick up to about 15, 20 feet. And then on the left is the new addition, so the kids will come across that fire lane that runs just to the north of that existing building. So you can see how it comes across the fire lane, you go into that, and then you'll go down about 7 or 8 feet, so it's kind of a split level. There's about 8 feet difference between the fire lane and the track and football field, so. And then really just wanted to touch on the current design. We're very, very early on what the bond calls the College Career Center, Keith Bell Center here for potentially a new name. But that is in the works, and so there's a lot of, we've done a couple of tours, we've seen some things, we've talked about program, we've talked about what this wants to be and would like to be, so we're very, very early, so we'll keep bringing you things as we develop that plan even further. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, Barbara Joe, so the first colors, the question was, are those the colors of the building? Those are the colors of the building. Johnson has existing colors, which are red and black, that were throughout that building, and then Willett is 3 different shades of blue.
And is that in keeping with the schools that they feed to, like the elementary?
No, our current elementaries do not have colors that go into the schools they feed in. All schools have black as a color, and Willett will as well, because that's the district color.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Morzak, I appreciate that very much. Moving on to 7C, custodial and child nutrition report of Mr. Chase.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. As was mentioned in the background information in the board book, we've been having a difficult time staffing our custodial department and child nutrition. We've been making adjustments to our pay schedule annually, as you know, but we're still approximately 93 cents behind the market average in regions 10, 11, and that study was done a year ago, so it's likely a little more than that now. We tried working with a couple of staffing agencies recently to try to see if we couldn't fill our vacancies, and we haven't had a lot of luck with that either. And so what we're going to do is increase our starting pay. It's currently the minimum starting pay is $10.20, and we're going to increase that to $11. And in order to not create inequities with the existing staff, we're going to give the custodians, child nutrition workers, and cafeteria managers an 80-cent increase 80 cent per hour increase beginning on January 4th, 2021. We're estimating this is going to cost us approximately $112,000, and we have some funds budgeted for maintenance contingencies. It's not likely that we really need to get into that very much because we've had enough vacancies, up till now that, we can cover a large part of that probably just with the staffing vacancies that we have had. DEA local does state that the superintendent has this authority to do what we're proposing to do tonight. He can give pay increases mid-year as long as they're non-contract employees, and these are non-contract employees we're talking about, to address pay inequities. And so we're going to go ahead and do that. The policy just requires us to report this to you as a board, so you're aware that we are going to move forward with this. So if there's any questions, we have to answer them.
Mr. Ferris, if you don't mind, just add one comment to that. I appreciate John doing the work on the market study. We are continually having challenges filling some of these positions, and appreciate the opportunity to be able to raise this up to a much more market competitive salary, and especially for some of these wage workers that really could use the help right now. So thank you for the work that you did, John, on this, you and your staff. I think this will be great for our custodians and nutrition workers.
Thank you both very much. Appreciate that. Moving on to item 8, our public forum. The board will hear comments from the audience only during the public comment portion of the meeting. Individuals wishing to speak must have added their name and topic to the public sign-in form prior to the start of this board meeting. No one signed up to speak to the board tonight, so we'll move on then to item number 9. Item number 9, consent agenda. 9A is approval of minutes for the November 2nd meeting. 9B is minutes from the November 2nd regular board meeting. C is approved minutes from November 17th special call meeting. 9D is approved budget amendments. 9E is approved purchase of radios. 9F is approved MOU between Forney ISD and the City of Forney Police Department. 9G is ratify and reapprove the delinquent tax collection fee contract with Purdue, Brandon, Felder, Collins, and Mott. And then 9H is approve the resolution regarding review of local investment policy. The board may take action on any of these separately, or we can do it collectively. Do I have a motion from the board?
Mr. Ferris, make a motion the board approve the consent agenda collectively as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 10, consideration, possible approval of the CV local as a first reading. And Mr. Rick Gear, Chief of Human Services, will present.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Board members, Dr. Terry. In order to speed up the process in awarding construction contracts, the administration recommends revising CV local by delegating the authority to determine the procurement method to be used for all future construction projects valued at or above $50,000 to the superintendent. All contracts that are $100,000 will continue to be submitted to the board for approval. So we're bringing this to you as a recommendation as a first reading tonight. I'll be glad to entertain any questions, but probably I would defer to John Chase.
Thank you, Mr. Gear. Any questions from the board? Dr. Terry, any comments?
No, sir, I do not recommend we move this forward to consent for second reading.
Thank you both very much. Ms. Tier, would you please add this to the consent agenda for the January meeting, 2021? Thank you very much. Moving on to item 11, consideration of possible approval of the attendance boundary modification plan. This time, Ms. Kim Warzak will present the attendance boundary modification plan to us.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris, Dr. Terry, Board. Just as a reminder, this has been an ongoing process that we've been working on for several board meetings now, and we're at the very end of the process. So the last two bullets were for the demographer to adjust any plans if necessary based on community feedback and board comment, and then for the board to adopt the plan. Just want to remind you guys of where we are. So as you know, we are currently in a 2 middle school, 2 high school direct feeder pattern. That is no longer going to exist. So our high school boundary is actually now a standalone boundary. And I think this has maybe caused a little bit of confusion with some people in the district. So I just want to make sure everyone understood. So our high school boundary is completely independent of our middle schools, and it is exactly the same as it currently is. So any student who is currently zoned to be a Forney Jackrabbit will continue to be a Forney Jackrabbit, and any student who is currently zoned to be a North Forney Falcon will continue to be a North Forney Falcon as of today and as of next school year. So those are independent boundaries of our intermediate, elementary, and middle school boundaries. So moving on to our elementary boundary, you know this is it was really actually a fairly small boundary change. It only affected 2 schools, and that is Crosby Elementary and Blackburn Elementary. And this boundary change is occurring because we're opening Griffin Elementary at Devonshire. So the brown area in the zoning map, as you know, is Griffin Elementary. It has reduced Blackburn's size quite a bit. And part of that is because that area is growing so rapidly, but the other part of that is because that is where we hold our Advanced Academics and Fine Arts Academy that will continue to expand next year. And then Crosby as it's made it a little bit smaller as well, also a very rapidly growing area. So that is our elementary zoning, boundary zone. For our middle school boundary zone, there have been a few very slight adjustments to this, and that was just to clean up some lines. There were a couple areas that weren't quite on a road that he had to adjust, but it's basically the Plan 3 boundary zone that you guys have seen. The blue area is Brown Middle School, the pinkish red area is Warren Middle School, and then the green area is the new Jackson Middle School. This is also our intermediate boundary zone, so Ray is the pink area at the bottom, Smith is the blue area to the top right, and then the green is Rhodes Intermediate. They're next to Jackson. So these boundaries are as presented, with the exception of just a couple little cleanup lines. Any questions regarding the boundary zones? And then Mr. Gear is actually going to present one more item regarding administrative regulations. Mr. Gear?
If the boundary zones or the new attendance zone modification is approved, a couple things that we started looking at, and if you recall back in 2018 when we went through this with the moving actually of the high school boundary at that time up to Ridgecrest and 740, we actually had about 3 or 4 different what we called exceptions to our transfer policy, and one of those would still be active. A lot of those have kind of timed out or expired, but there is one that I want to bring to your attention, which says exceptions 2019 and 20. This is the housing addition that's right across from Criswell called Brookville Estates. That would actually expire in 2021-22 school year. And so that one actually will phase out as well. But one thing that we would like to propose is to add on this new one where the district will actually entertain transfers application received no later than February the 1st, which we will open those up right after the Christmas break, for any current 7th grader who wishes to remain at their current campus for the 21-22 school year. Approval obviously will be dependent upon the available capacity at that requested campus, and as always in our transfer policy, no transportation is provided. So I'd be glad to entertain any questions. We plan on sending this communication out fairly quickly if it is approved.
Board, you've heard the presentation of Ms. Morsack and Mr. Gear. Do you have any questions about the boundaries or the exceptions as presented?
Mr. Ferris, I have a question. Mr. Gear, when we looked at the original plans, if I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, Plan 1, we ran into an overcrowding population with the schools within a couple of years, which defeated the purpose of building new schools.
Yes, sir, and actually I had that information in front of me as well, is that what ended up happening, the maximum that it would have given us, where we would have to either be adding on building, we talked about a new gym, possibly a Ray, and potentially, no matter whatever scenario we looked at, whether it was 5th grade and 7th grade, or 5th through 7th, or whether we moved the line, the most it gave us was 2 years. Again, then we would be at screeching capacity on the south side schools.
Okay, and then a follow-up to that, when we moved to this plan we're presenting tonight, it gave us the longest window to fit capacity in all the schools that were on our new plan. But tonight you're presenting a plan that allows the current 7th graders to stay where they are. How does that fit into that overcrowding? Can we handle the 7th graders?
Yes, sir. We started looking at the different scenarios and what would give us the possibilities of what we could do with some transfer type exceptions. If we figured in that if all 7th graders made that decision or that choice, that we could actually maintain that capacity at either Warren Middle School at that time, then we would be able to. It didn't really affect the overall ratio of how long, the length of time that we had before we would be over capacity at that point.
Okay, thank you.
So we don't lose any time by letting the 7th graders.
Not to my knowledge. Dr. Terry, you may want to weigh in on that.
No, I just make one clarification for that, and that is that when you're making this exception, you're also making this exception for students that would like to stay at Brown. We've had a few requests for that as well, and instead of moving to Jackson. So this would be universal for the whole district, and we entertain applications for both Warren and Brown.
It would include all 7 grades.
Just to clarify, but yes, this would be a 1-year opportunity, and we think we can maintain that with the growth based on feedback that you've given us to explore.
Thank you, Mr. Gear.
Are there any other questions from the board? If there are no questions, may I have a motion from the board?
President Ferris, I make a motion the board approve the attendance salary modification plan as presented.
I have a motion by Ms. Dobbs. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is it Mr. Regan? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much. I appreciate your presentations and explanations. Moving on to item number 12, consideration and possible approval for purchase of fixtures and furniture. And Mr. Chase will present the possible approval plan.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. As was indicated in your background information again, the projects for Jackson Middle School, Rhodes Intermediate, and Griffin Elementary School, their budgets included purchasing furniture and equipment to start up those campuses, as you might expect. And the total budgets that have been established for those projects combined totals about $10.5 million, and that's also the technology and technology infrastructure expenses as well. And so what we'd like to do tonight is ask for a not to exceed authorization from the board to be able to move forward with purchasing items such as furniture, technology infrastructure, supplies, equipment, offices, for offices and classrooms, athletics, library, and fine arts. That's a fairly large undertaking, as you can might imagine, with these 3 campuses. And so we would propose to utilize purchasing cooperatives, and in so doing, they've already had contracts that have already been bid, so we wouldn't necessarily have to have a bid, a formal bid outside of the purchasing cooperatives. But our board policy does require the board to approve purchases over 100, and it's likely, especially with our furniture vendor, that there'll be single purchases over $100,000. When you take it as a group, a basket purchase from these guys. And so, that being said, again, our recommendation is that the board would grant us that flexibility to give us a not to exceed budget amount of $10.5 million to purchase the furniture, technology infrastructure, and the equipment for Jackson, Rhodes, and Griffin Elementary.
Dr. Terry, do you have any other comments?
Just one, I just wanted to remind the board that this is actually part of a budget you've already approved. This is just what we're asking for tonight is the flexibility for purchasing, specifically with some of the delivery times that we're up against for furniture, for some of our deliverables, specifically furniture and technology. This allows us some flexibility. What we'd like to do is continue to brief you with more detailed information through the brief on Friday, if that will please the board, and that to keep you up to date on what those purchases are. But we would recommend that you go ahead and approve the $10.5 million as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. And Dr. Terry, any other questions from the board? I hear none. Do I have a motion?
President.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Do I have a second? Mrs. Green, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 13, consideration. Mr. Chase will present to us consideration of possible approval of an order authorizing the issuance of the Forney Independent School District of its fixed rate unlimited tax school bonds and or refunding bonds in one or more series as designated by purpose and series, levying continuing direct annual ad valorem tax for the payment of one or more series of bonds, describing the form, terms, conditions, and revolving other matters incident or related to the issuance, sale, and delivery of one or more of the series of bonds, including approval and distribution of one or more of the official statements pertaining thereto, authorizing the execution of one or more paying agent transfer agreements and purchase contracts, each pertaining to a series of bonds, complying with the letter of representations on file with the depository trust, and delegating authority to certain members of the board and or trustees and district staff to approve and execute certain documents relating to the sale of each series of bonds, and providing an effective date. Did I get it all? Mr. Chase,
Certainly quite a mouthful, for sure.
I get to do it again.
But just to, it's kind of give you a little background of where we're at tonight with our bond sales and our authorizations and what we're doing tonight. Beginning over here on the prior bond sale authorizations, we had Jackson, Griffin, the welding shop, Animal Science Center, the cafeteria expansions and design fees and other miscellaneous projects that we did this summer. You've already given us the authorization to sell the $161.7 million, of which we sold $90 million in two separate transactions. The first was $70 million, and then we did a $20 million transaction in August, which leaves us $71.7 million of authorization left to finish out those projects. And now we're ready to move forward with, we saw the design of Willett and Johnson tonight at the board meeting during the construction update. We also have that high school and athletic expansions that we've got, we're moving forward with, as well as the design of the college and career center. And that totals $102.5 million. So when you combine the 71.7, the 102.5 together to do all those projects, what we're asking is to have authorization to issue $174.2 million to complete these projects. And as it was spelled out in the order, we would not be able to sell these if the interest cost on these exceeded 6%. Now, it's not likely it'll ever get even close to that. I mean, interest rates are really, really low right now, but in the dock, if it were to go above 6% for some strange reason, then we would have to come back to the board for authorization before we could actually do the sale. The second part of it is that we have $30.5 million of bonds that will be callable in August, and so to prevent us from having to come and do another parameter order for doing those refinancing transactions, we just kind of put it all into this one parameter order tonight, and that we would be allowed to do those calls and refinances as long as we could achieve a 3% present value savings on it. So. As with prior parameter orders, it does give the superintendent, as you read, and myself, board president, board secretary, the ability to execute these sales, and this order would expire 1 year from tonight. So our plan is to the first sale would be done probably in January, 1st of February, which it'd be about $106 million, and that would leave the $60 million change that we would have. We'd probably issue the following August in order to finish these projects out. So that's the parameter order, basically the long and short of it, with all the pages that are listed there. If there's any questions about the order specifically, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, our recommendation is that you would approve it as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. That was shorter than my description. Dr. Terry, do you have any other suggestions?
No, sir. I recommend you approve the order as presented.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, may I please have a motion and a second to approve the consideration of possible approval of an order authorizing the issuance of the Forney Independent School District of its fixed rate unlimited tax building and or refunding bonds in one or more series, and delegating the authority to the certain members of the board and district staff to approve and execute certain documents relating to the sale of each series of bonds and providing an effective date. May I have a motion, please?
Mr. Ferris, I make a motion to approve the order authorizing the issuance of unlimited tax school building and refunding bonds.
Thank you, Ms. Ms. Green, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Carroll, thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to item number 14 for Mr. Chase, who presents possible approval for the resolution relating to rescinding the remaining authorization of issuance of unlimited tax school bonds from an order approved on May 11th, 2020, and providing an effective date. Mr. Chase?
Yeah, just going back to the slide that we had earlier, on the last action item, over on the left-hand side. We still have 71.7 million on that authorization that was approved, back in May. At the time, it was 91.7, but we did issue 20 against it, at this point. So there was 71.7 left of that authorization. In order to avoid having, duplicate, authorizations out there, we just need to rescind that order, and that's what we're asking you to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Any questions from the board? Just remind the board, this has been practiced before we've done this, so we did this a few months ago, I believe. Dr. Terry, do you have any other suggestions?
No, sir, I would recommend that you rescind the order as presented.
No further questions. May I have a motion, please?
Mr. Ferris, I make a motion to approve the resolution relating to rescinding the remaining authorization of the issuance of the unlimited tax school building bonds form and order approved on May 11th, 2020 as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. May I have a second?
Second.
Johnson, Andrews. Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much, Mr. Chase. And moving on into item 15, closed session. At this time, the board will move into closed session covering item number 8, regarding employment professional contracts. Item B, consider possible action regarding pursuant to sanctions of educator abandonment, and C, consultation with attorneys pursuant to Texas Government Code 551071. And then D, conduct a hearing for Local 3, F&G, parent complaint, and deliberations regarding the same pursuant to Texas Government Code 551074, personnel matters 551082, and student discipline 551081, and student information. It is now 8:10 p.m. and will be dismissed to our executive session. Thank you. It's now 9:17 p.m. and we'll reconvene back into open session. Moving on to item 16, consideration and possible approval regarding employment of professional contract personnel. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I make a motion that the board approve the professional contract personnel as presented.
Have a motion by Ms. Dobbs. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And I hear none. Moving on to item 17, consideration of possible action regarding the pursuant sanctions for educator abandonment of contract. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I move that the board find that good cause did not exist for the identified employee in closed session to abandon their contracts with Forney ISD, and authorize the superintendent to take all necessary steps to report this matter to the State Board of Educator Certification for further action.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. We have a second.
Second.
Ms. Green, thank you very much. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Item number 18, consideration and possible action regarding the level 3 F&G parents complaint.
Ferris, I move to be denied if you'll request a remedy and uphold the level 2 decision.
I have a motion by Mr. Johnson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Andrews. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. So, moving on into item 19, announcements. You have the dates listed there. You have the supplement to those dates that were given you earlier by Dr. Terry. Any other comments, Dr. Terry?
And no, sir, we will get you one more date, and that's probably gonna be the first week of February for ribbon cuttings for culinary arts and the welding manufacturing facilities. So we will get those out to you as soon as we can. And just a reminder, we love to have you at all of those, but we also understand your time is valuable, so if you can't make one of those, it's okay.
Thank you very much. It is now 9:20 p.m. and I call this meeting adjourned.